Welcome back to the potting shed. So you may have seen my video on my massive Blue Star Fern, and I've got to tell you, things haven't quite gone to plan. It's still massive and amazing, but quite a few of the leaves have got quite crispy, unfortunately. All is not lost by a long chalk, really. There's still a lot of new leaves coming through. It's still looking fairly healthy, but what I think is happening here is drying out too quickly. Partly my fault, I would imagine. I've let it dry out, and also I've got a suspicion that this pot might be a bit too small for it, because I've been watering it and it's been fine for a few days, and then I would check on it and it's gone from being absolutely fine to bone dry. The pot's really light and it's drying out too dry. These Blue Star Ferns, they need to be kept not wet all the time, but they can't be allowed to totally dry out. So just as they're starting to dry, you need to water them again. And I think that's what's been happening with this one. It's just got too dry. Now, yes, occasionally I probably have left it a few days too long, but when I've been paying a lot more attention, it's still going from the sort of reasonably moist point where it is right now to then being completely dry. It seems too quick to me. So this is what I think is happening, is that there's just not that much soil in the pot. It's a big plant. It's got a lot of very big rhizomes on the surface. If I can get a bit of footage for you, I'll show you. But I just think it could do with a little bit more soil in the pot to give it a little bit more moisture retention. I think that's what it needs. So that's what I'm going to do today. I've got a bigger pot here. You see that compared to that? Just about see that, can't you? It's hard with all the foliage, but yeah, it's quite a bit bigger. It's probably 1.5 inches deeper, and the diameter is a lot bigger as well. So I'm hoping that will sort it out. You know, essentially, like I said, it's fine. I don't know if you can see, like leaves like this. That's a new leaf. Absolutely fine. There's a new leaf here. Very healthy. There's a new leaf. There's many new leaves coming through. It's fine, but it just seems to be some of the bigger ones are crisping over at the end. So I think it's a humidity thing, and I think it just needs a little bit more moisture. So hopefully we can remedy that by giving it a bigger pot, which means there'll be more soil and it will take a little bit longer to dry out. Maybe I've got a humidity tray for it already, so we'll monitor how it goes, but maybe it might need a little bit more humidity as well. I've been actually keeping it in the bathroom in the last couple of weeks since it's been drying out, and it seems to be quite happy in there. So maybe it might have its new home in the bathroom, because obviously much higher humidity levels every day with the shower going and things like that. So we'll see. But, you know, like I said, all is not lost by any stretch. It's still a magnificent looking thing, but there are several big leaves that have crisped over, and I will probably, whilst I'm attending to it, I'll probably cut a few of those bits off, because they don't look that good and they're not going to get any better. And I think the overall result is you probably won't see those cut ends when you're looking at the whole thing. So, you know, you live and you learn. You know, houseplants are always going to be a tricky thing, and not everyone is the same, and sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And in this case, I'm learning with my Blue Star Fern, but that's all good. You know, it's a fun thing to do, and I'm enjoying it. So let's get this out of the pot and have a look at the roots and see what it's like. Right, so there's a lot of very delicate stems in this, so I'm going to have to be really careful getting it out of the pot, because I don't want to break any of the rhizomes and I don't want to break any of the leaves either. So I'm just going to turn it over and see how it feels. Not good. it's quite in there. I don't want to give it too much grief, because there's just nothing thick to really grab onto, you know. I might just try and get down my trusty harvest knife, might get down in the edges just to release it a bit. That way I don't have to give the plant itself too much grief. Yeah, let's have a look. You can also, once you get it in there, use it as a bit of a leverage to sort of lever it out a bit. Oh, yep, it's moving. Yeah. Yeah. I think there were some fine roots working their way through the bottom of the pot, which was holding it in there, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah. Yeah. All of this is a root ball. Very fine fibrous roots, but the whole thing is root. There's very little free compost here at all. So I think this bears out what I was thinking. I think there's just not enough soil here at all. Let me see if I can give you a close-up. I don't know if this will focus, if I get out of the way. Is that going to focus? All of this is not soil, this is all fibrous roots. You can see that, yeah. The entire pot is full of fibrous roots, which is great, which means it's going to be very healthy, but there's no soil in there, you know. It's all just preoccupied with, it's all just taken up with these roots. That's solid. So that is pretty much what I expected. Just there's this tiny little bit here. This is the only tiny little bit of compost on the top. Maybe ½ an inch of compost and that's it. The rest is root ball. So I'm glad I had a look at this because, yeah, this definitely needed a repot. It's just one solid mass. So that's kind of good news in a way, because I'm off the hook a little bit. Because this is never going to stay watered correctly when you've got very little soil here. So I'm just really carefully teasing out any soil there is, which is hardly anything coming out of here. Really isn't. Just being careful of the leaves. There's a few little smaller ones that have died off that I'm just teasing out. You could, if you wanted to at this stage, if you wanted to reproduce them, you could take off some of these smaller rhizomes where you've got leaves growing out of them and divide them and make several smaller plants if you wanted to at this stage. But I like the really big look of this one. So I'm going to keep it as it is and just give it some more room to breathe, I think. There's a little one in there. There we go. See, we've had a few, if that's going to, yeah, had a few smaller leaves that have just died off if they've grown up. Quite a few that haven't as well. I mean, it looks like a healthy plant. I'm not too worried. I'm just looking here. Let me offer this up for a minute. Yeah. There's a reasonable amount of space. If you look at, you can now see the difference between the two pots. That should be enough. But looking at that, such a root mass, it could even take a bigger pot, to be honest with you. But I think that's going to be fine. That's probably ½ an inch to an inch all the way around, which will do. And the depth wise, there's a good couple of inches on the depth as well, What I'm going to do, if I can find it, I just want to find one of my forks. Am I going to find it? Probably not when I need it. Okay, so I can't find my fork. It'll turn up. So what I want to do is just tease out this root ball because it's so fine and compacted. I mean, I can do it reasonably with my hands. I don't want to damage too many of the roots, but I don't want it to stay in this ball. I want it to grow out into the soil. So I'm just going to tease the root ball. Now a fork is great for this because you can just run it on the outside and it breaks off some of the small fibers and just gets them in the right direction. But you can do it with your hands. It's working out okay actually. Got my harvest knife here. If you could just use the back of it maybe. Yeah, that's working nice. Just running the back of it over the outside. There we go. You see that? Oh good, there goes my aloe. See, I've just teased the bottoms of the roots out a bit. They're really fine, so it's hard to see, but just giving them a rub over, and as you can see, they're all just coming out a bit now. That's what I wanted all the way around. This, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you can. What you see there is that's all of the compost that was in the pot apart from the roots. It's literally a couple of handfuls, less than that. There's about one handful of soil, so that's why it was drying out so quickly. Right. So what I'm going to do is repot this with a little bit heavier soil. Because it's drying out quickly, I want to use a compost that has properties that are going to hold on to the water a little bit more. Now, a lot of composts are called free draining compost, and you would have seen me in other videos using perlite and maybe some fine grit, and that all helps the water drain through, because a lot of houseplants, they don't want water sitting there. You know, that's the opposite of what you want. But this one, as I said, is drying out. So what you do want is some moisture retention. You don't want it soggy, but you want it to be able to hold on to it for a little bit longer. That's the issue with this particular plant. It's a little bit unique because ferns are like that. Most of them aren't, but ferns particularly need that water retention. So what I'm going to do, this stuff here, I don't know if you can read it, probably not. This is multi-purpose compost with added John Innes. You probably won't be able to see it, but it's just a little bit heavier, basically. It's just got a little bit more body to it, which is going to help retain that water. Right, so I've put some in the bottom now. Just going to offer up the plant into the pot and see where we are. That's pretty much where I need it. You're probably not going to see very well, but it's sitting, the rhizomes are just sitting proud. Let me see if I can get you on the other camera. So with these, because they've got these rhizomes on the surface, the plant uses these rhizomes to be able to collect moisture and nutrients from the air. So you don't bury these, they need to be on the surface, and when you water them you can actually water on top of these rhizomes because they draw in a lot of their moisture and nutrients through these little caterpillar looking things on the surface. So if you are repotting something like this, you need to make sure they are at least above the ground level that you're creating. So I think that's pretty much spot on. You can see there's the top and they're just sitting proud. So I can now go in and fill in around the pot and we should be good to go. It's worth taking your time, just making sure you get it sitting how you want it. The worst thing you want to do is finish potting it up and realise that the plant's sitting on the wonk a little bit, because it's a real hassle to take it all out and start again. So just, you know, work your way around it and see how it's sitting. I think there's a little bit of too much in one side here. That's better. That's sitting more level now. So I'm just going to go around and pour the compost around the edges and fill it up. Now, it's important that you get compost all the way around the edges and all the way around to the bottom. You don't want to leave any gaps around the pot. So again, just take your time, enjoy the process and work it down. Don't give it too much pressure, don't press it in too much, because we don't want to damage the roots or the rhizomes. But just let it fall in place to begin with, and then work it down with your fingers very lightly. And then, as you've probably seen before, I quite often use a garden cane, something like that, to go in and just carefully prod it in down between the edges, and that will work that compost in around the roots. Now the tiny little tender new sprouts and the new branches are coming out from the edge, so you've got to be super careful and vigilant that you don't break off any of those new baby branches as you do this. It's working out nicely so far. Like some people like to have the radio on in the potting shed, or even a podcast while you're doing things like this. And I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. But when I spend time in the potting shed and time with my plants, I don't know, I think it's just nice just to literally be quiet and, you know, really take it all in. You know, it's a good opportunity to really relax and do something really basic, you know. I don't know what it is about working with plants and nature that sort of grounds me, you know, and something primeval about it, and doing it and just doing it in silence and being present while you're doing it. It's very fulfilling to be able to do that. And so I could have the radio on, could have some music on, I could have a podcast on, and that's nice too. But, you know, sometimes it's just nice to be completely in the moment, looking at the leaves, looking at the plant and spending time with it. I know it sounds a bit hippie, but that's what people say when they talk about working with bonsai being a Zen art or a Zen hobby. It's about having no distraction and about having complete focus on what you're doing. And that's a form of meditation. And just being quiet and being around a plant, I think it connects with something in the human psyche somehow that, you know, you recognize that this is a good thing to be doing. So that's all. Just thought I'd share that with you. I think we all need some mental quiet from time to time, you know. Does you good. Right, I think she's done. It looks good. It's a nice pot, and it's going to have a lot more room to grow, a lot more moisture to be able to retain around the roots, and yeah, hopefully it won't dry out as quick, and hopefully it'll be a bit happier as well. So yeah, I'll keep you posted on how it gets on, but I'm quite glad that I found that, really, because it does explain why I've been struggling with these leaf tips, and yeah, hopefully it will keep looking magnificent and, you know, give me a lot more pleasure for many years to come. But that's it from me and my Blue Star Fern. I hope you found it useful. Please give it a thumbs up if you have. I really appreciate that. It does make a difference. And if you're new around here, maybe consider subscribing, because I'm making houseplant videos every week and I've got a lot more exciting projects to come. So I hope you'll stick around for them. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again very soon. Bye for now.